Brother, I got a question that I love to ask people that I very highly look up to within this fitness scene, within this thing that we like to pay our bills with, and it's how do you build a culture?
Um, you know, culture, culture is a unique word. I actually appreciate that that's what you asked for instead of community, right? I think people get those two words confused. So you build a culture by authenticity, right? Um, my wife and I, when we started the gym, we were a younger married couple who, we loved each other a ton and we were free spirit. I say we in past got kids now. Like there's a lot of other challenges to deal with, but our authenticity attracted our culture,
Yeah.
right? We had people who came in and they were like, wow, I want to not necessarily just be like, these people, but essentially being led by these people for my fitness, for my, how I want to look up to a human being. So it just, you get culture through authenticity. End of story. Absolute end of story.
Hmm. I agree, man. Not in a sense of following, but more of a hey, this is the path that we're going to walk down. You can walk side by side with us.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
And I think, especially the coaches over the years, I've had the privilege of rubbing shoulders with. Whether you're coaching around, under, above, it doesn't fucking matter. You're still in their presence, and it's the same with the athletes, and it's the same with owners, whether it's in the fitness realm or whether it's not. If somebody is truly leading this thing, steering this ship in a way that they deem fit, and it is wholeheartedly inside their frigging heart, you feel it. It's not like you've been told. It's you don't hear it, you feel it, and you're like, you know what? I can get on board with this. I can get in the trenches and I can start digging. And when they blow that whistle, I'm going to get over the top and I'm going to start running. And then
Yes.
conversely, you feel it on the other side, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think your culture um, goes a little deeper. Even I know different CrossFit gyms in the world where they have different cultures. Some are just all about. I mean, you go anyway. You want to talk about they're all about fitness, right? Maybe they like strongman, or maybe they're into Olympic lifting. You could go that's a culture itself, but you could also go, even even when it comes to the type of things you allow inside of your community, right? Like
Yeah.
when you have a smaller culture, there's more drama, right? I mean, there's more things that can go wrong too. So it's like if you accept that, and I think that's where I'm so lucky to have a partner, with my wife helping because I'm much more laid back when it comes to just I don't know, I'm almost even getting taken advantage of, and she's always been the one to kind of be like, no, we need to put out this fire before it starts. So I think that you have to have some sort of balance to have a successful culture. When I say successful, I mean 10, 15 plus year members.
Yeah. And it's definitely organic too, right? You have to continuously water it.
Yep.
If you just leave it alone, it becomes a little bit stale.
Yep.
And, the nature of human beings will end up being our own demise.
Yep.
We like to create drama, let's be honest. So if it's like we just leave it alone, wait, hold on a minute. Why is everybody fucking each other? Like what's
Right.
going on?
Yeah.
It's a strange thing. But yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. Leading. What does leadership mean to you then?
True, man. Leadership, well, I don't know how into, like all of Jocko's leadership books or anything like that you are, but when it comes to leadership, it, to me, it means bearing the weight of the entire team, family, culture, group, whatever. It's all about can you put it on your shoulders and march it in its most challenging times? And can you be the most quiet in its most successful times? So anytime you need to raise everything up and carry the weight of everything, can you do that with immense energy, smile, pride, effort? And then when everything is going well, can you not take the credit for it? I mean, that's what leadership really means to me. That comes from more of a sports background, though, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's being that even kilter, right? Trying to
Yeah.
create and maintain that homeostasis of emotion. And it's
Yeah.
quite funny, right? Like we dabble on the extremes
Yeah.
quite regularly. We're a little bit over passionate, we're a little bit too irrational, we're too tired, we're too fired up, and it's like, I think having the extremes is good, but most is probably done in the middle.
Yep.
Going long and going short is good, but we're probably going to spend most amount of time in the 7 to 12, maybe the 15-minute time domain,
Sure.
and you're going to
Yep.
go hard there. And that's
Yep.
kind of it. Yeah, okay, doing a 60-minute run is going to be good. Yeah, okay, going crazy passionate is going to be good. But if you're in somebody's face all the time, you're
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
probably gonna push more people away, right?
Yes, without a doubt.
All right, brother.
Without a doubt.
Why do you do what you do?
Well, I mean, I do a lot. So
You do.
there, that's a loaded question, right? When it comes to just the gym, um, if the marriages, the success stories, the changing of lives, that really lies within the gym. And what the problem is that with CrossFit, it is unique to where when you change someone's life, it's different than how it looks inside of a Planet Fitness. So a lot of times, are there people sitting at home? Do you guys have Planet Fitness? Yeah, you do, right? Or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
we know what that
Okay,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know if that's a bad reference.
No.
There's people that pick up a magazine or they get on TikTok, they see an influencer, they get inspired, they change their own life within their self. They lose weight, they start walking on the treadmill. They did this transformation by themselves, and there is so much to be respected and said about that. But when it comes to a CrossFit change, the change of life comes from you were pre-diabetic and now you're 20 years older, 10, 20 years older, having trained CrossFit, and you can do things that you could never even do when you were a teenager. And that just doesn't happen without a coach, without a CrossFit gym, without people around you lifting you up. So like that is what we're after. So that's why we do the gym. When it comes to the job I do with CrossFit, I'm super passionate behind business and small business, right? Small business, at least in the US, is the backbone of our country. And if it fails, we fail. Yet all we do is bitch and moan and argue and discuss giant corporations and this person's doing that, whereas no one takes care of the small business owner except local people, right? That local feel. So when it comes to the affiliates in the states that I'm around, I want them to be the most successful small business owners. I want them to have enough money to pay for their kids' school or feed their families, etc. So I get that huge sense of accomplishment if I can just give them a little bit of knowledge. Now I can't be their mentor, but what I can do is I can at least get on a phone call. That's where I'm heading into after this, and kind of see where they're at, So that gives me a great sense of gratitude.
Why do you think the small business is declining in the States?
I'd love to hear if you think they decline where you're at too. But, the monopolies, we're up against huge monopolies. 1% of the world owns,
they own essentially everything to a degree, right? I mean, not to get conspiracied out on it, but
Yeah.
it's just the
Yeah.
truth. I mean, it's just a fact. And the only way you deal with that is you have small micro cultures and communities that believe in one another and do things like that. So when it comes to supporting small business, you can't even do it all because it's too expensive. I mean, at its root, right? Like, I would love to say that I don't shop at Sam's Club. I
Hmm.
have to. I have to shop at Sam's Club, or I can't feed all of my kids.
Hmm.
I mean, they want, but what can I do, right? I can either A, stop eating and everyone stops eating, which isn't an option, or I can decide, hey, where else can I put my money towards small business? Well, maybe it's, going to a CrossFit gym. Maybe it's, when we don't eat out as much, but when we do eat out, we only stay local and we only go to, but this is very true. What my wife and I do, we don't go to big chain restaurants. It's just a little way that we can kind of avoid that, right? We don't go out to eat that often. So when we do, hey, we want to support local, et cetera. So, I mean, you, you kind of got to pick where you're going to put it. And that's why I think CrossFit gyms are in a good spot, right? Because yeah, you can get a 20, $30 membership, but I think people kind of know typically you're going to have to pay a lot more to get a lot more results. So that they're willing to kind of do so. And I think in a small business environment.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's quite unique in the fitness scene because, what's the other model at the end of the day? It's the commercial side. And
Right.
if you're having that conversation, if you're having that question of what's a CrossFit gym? What is it like non-commercial? Then you've already probably failed in the commercial scene. If you're doing
Yep.
well, you're in shape, you're enjoying yourself, you enjoy training, you've got your little community in the gym that you're doing bodybuilding, you're doing powerlifting, you're doing whatever, right? You've already found it. You've made it. Well done. Let me give you a fucking stern high five and let's go work out somewhere. Let's go do your thing. Cool. But for the majority of folk, they're probably not there, right?
Right.
They're like, oh, it's not really working. These spin classes once every other week isn't really working. I'm
Yeah.
still kind of like 4 bags of Cheetos deep every night. I'm still smashing whatever. It's like, yeah, maybe we need to steer the ship somewhere else. Maybe we need to try something else.
Yeah.
And it's funny, right? Like, you have the conversation of inaccessibility in terms of money with a CrossFit gym, and I understand that conversation, especially when you're broke, right at the bottom, like, yeah, you can't afford that, man. Like, I understand, and I think we need to do a better job of allowing or creating the accessibility for folk that are absolutely broke, right?
Yeah.
However, when you actually scratch below that surface with some folk, they're usually just bleeding cash elsewhere.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's what drives me nuts. I mean, I in life and especially in marriage, there's a lot of everyone who posts. I was on a rant about this morning with my wife. Like, everyone who posts that they got their shit together, they don't.
It's bullshitting you.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I know that's super basic to say, but there's a lot of big pillars that people really can rely on in a family and a marriage. And you have your faith, your finances, your fitness, and these are sorts of things that, um, I mean, you build a lot of roots on these things, right? And so
Yeah.
I think finance is a tough question because somebody says they can't afford the gym. If this is just a raw human conversation, I could say, hey, then show me all of your expenses.
Mm.
Show me absolutely every expense. And then I can show you ways to either A, eliminate it because it's dumb. You don't need it. I can save you money, or we can do the whole risk reward thing. Like, is this bringing you value or is it bringing you down? Because I guarantee this will bring you up, and this is what I need to charge. There's not a lot of CrossFit gym owners that are charging $1,000 or thousand whatever. I know what you are. You're a crap. I forgot it. What is it?
Well, I'm English for one. So a
Oh, so
pound,
pound?
pounds,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's what I was saying. Yeah, 1,000 pounds. I don't know if that would be even. It could be way more, could be way less. But you know what I mean, right? Like they're not overcharging. They're
Yeah.
charging their worth. So I mean, at a minimum, I have them say, hey, at least charge what you're worth. Like you don't need to be cutting people massive discounts because they want to try to abuse you on that and take advantage of it, and you provide them a service.
Yeah, I agree. I really, really, really do agree. I think it's the 95% can squeeze an extra dollar out of their wallet. It's like it's there, guys. It is fucking there. You can find it.
Definitely.
I would love, because I think the potency of this thing is unbelievable in the terms of, you see a lot of folk come across your eyes, right? And you're like, yeah, okay, the fitness is great. The confidence building is great. All that's going on. Yeah, cool. They're half decent people, but they just become better folk. They become better people from moving their body, right? And I would dare to say they do it in a Zumba scene. I would dare to say if they just literally sat on their bedroom floor and stretched for 15 minutes every morning, they would be a better person, right?
Yeah.
I think the potency of this CrossFit thing is a hell of a lot higher, hence why we committed to it, right?
Yep.
But I would love to see it in some sort of social welfare program of like, oh, okay, you are like, you literally make £61 a week. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to be able to afford to eat on 61 quid a week? It's like, okay, cool. Like, you're going to have to buy in still. You're going to have to save 10 quid, 5 quid, whatever it is. And the government or the local council is going to match whatever. And we've created some sort of thing for
that. But that would make too much sense, right, Alex? Like, it makes so much sense. So it's funny. I don't know why I thought you were Australia from the beginning. I was like, because you said mate on, and I was like, oh, that's English, whatever. But nonetheless, so there are things working. Right. It's like I know I've been working with a company called TrueMed with CrossFit. I'm not quite sure if they're allowed in England or UK or where, I don't know the local government on that, but essentially they take what's called a health savings account and they allow you to use your CrossFit membership for the health savings account, which is awesome. So a health savings account typically is what people have to cover their deductible, and it's triple tax advantage. And what they found is that CrossFit, typically people who have a HSA, they don't go to the doctor that often, right? And if they do CrossFit, because they're typically healthier, people. I wanted to say folk because it sounded cool, but they're healthier people. So now this company allows you to utilize the HSA dollars for CrossFit.
Wow.
Because they give you a doctor recommendation. Does CrossFit help your anxiety? I think it's like 75% of at least Americans suffer from some sort of mental disorder. And I think that's an understatement. We can't really diagnose mental disorder. I mean, you really can't diagnose a mental disorder. If you really, really look at it and think about it at its core, it's what you just said. If you are on death's door mentally, first of all, reach out for help. But second of all, move. Just go for a walk first. Like, start somewhere at your deepest, darkest minute, and start moving. And you're going to somewhat dig yourself out of something. I mean, it's in our human DNA. So like, I think you couldn't be more correct, but that would just make too much sense, right?
Yeah, it's funny, right? You spend 5 minutes of thinking, and you think you can fix all the problems in countries, but I would not want to be that man in the high castle, mate. Fuck that.
Absolutely not.
My question would be, why is this bloody thing, what do you call it, HSA?
Yeah.
Why is that not publicized more?
Well, it's new, right? And it's also a lot is hanging on that. So, people, when something's new, you gotta be, you can't just jump all in and think it's going to save the world. You have to kind of let it play out. I mean, this company is really taking a lot of swing because, they may have to battle the United States government, and they're willing to do so, right? Because they believe that CrossFit helps disorders, metabolic disorders,
Yeah.
We know it does.
Yeah.
But they can't say that other things do, right? I mean, a lot of HSAs, there's some discounts on gym memberships, etc. But never a thing where like a CrossFit gym that's attached to a methodology. They're basically stating like the level 1 and how CrossFit is run kicks metabolic, disorders in their ass.
Yeah.
And they do. So, I mean, why shouldn't they be able to use their money?
I agree, mate. I really do. I thought about it for a long time of how do you get this thing? How do you tackle the barriers that stops people walking through their doors? Sometimes it's confidence and no problem. Sometimes that just needs time. I'm going to open and shut a door every day at this time and it's going to close at this time. You can walk past it every single fucking day and I'm going to say hello to you every single fucking day. And you're going to ignore me every single fucking day. And that's okay. But then 3 months down the line, you might be like, huh, hi, how you doing? And then 3 months after that, you're like, you know what? I'm going to come and give this a go. And I know this because I've bloody done it. It takes forever, but finally they walk through the door and all you need is one, right? It's just that domino effect. They go tell 2 people, they go tell 3 people. Next thing you know, you've got a gym full of folk and you've got a wait list. It really is that simple. And I think our role kind of has to morph into a teacher rather than a facilitator then, because you're like, well, hold on a minute, I've only got 2 hands, I can't hold everybody's hand, and it's like, right, well, how do I teach you guys to then be able to do it independently rather than you're all just kind of on me and my coaches or me and my business partner. It's like, right, here you go, here's the information, now piss off and be able to do it yourself.
You have to have the heart of a teacher, right? Like, so a lot of people sometimes they get into CrossFit because they really love the methodology, which is great. You need to have a passion for that, but having the heart of a teacher really makes really makes your business what it's supposed to be. Because if you don't have the heart of a teacher and you just want to instruct like high level Olympic lifts, or you don't want to deal with the person,
good luck,
and see their eyes open, right? And see that moment of like, holy shit, I didn't know that this existed. It's gonna be more of a struggle.
Good luck to you. People are people, man. Sometimes you wonder why the fuck you work with people, and then other times you're like, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And that roller coaster is the thing that we signed up on, but we're on it with no seatbelt. So
I can agree with.
In your opinion, in your eyes, what you've seen, what makes the greatest of coaches?
The greatest coaches that I've been around a lot, is they can take a complex skill or thought or series of thoughts and they can condense it down into very, very simple, practical steps. Because you could nerd out about the air squat so much that it's insane. Internal torque versus external torque, posterior chain engagement, the low bar back squat versus, like all these things. Whereas like, how do you take someone who hasn't bent their knee in 30 years and try to get them to air squat? Like, where are you going to tell them to put their feet? Where are you going to tell them to like put their eyes? Where are their hips going to go? Do they even know where their hips are at? Like, these are all the simple things that the best trainers can get anyone moving, and they meet them where they're at any level.
So how do you develop it?
No, that's a tough one, because you have to, first of all, be able to take feedback and be vulnerable and have someone way better than you instruct you. That's why when we teach the level 2 seminars, I can read someone right away. I'm like, oh, this person is going to be very receptive to feedback. And then even just by tone, I can read someone else and I can be like, they're not going to be very receptive to feedback. And those skills are beneficial. If you go to a level 2 with CrossFit and you get hammered, you have two options. You can either grow from it, or you can be like, oh, this shit was stupid. They didn't know what they were talking about. And anyone listens to this, like, where do you think more people would grow for? Like, where do you think the world would be a better place if we did the first one or the second one, right? If we actually listened to a person who was smarter than us at something and then applied it, that's fantastic. You know, my dream is that my coaches are better than me. You know,
Yeah.
that would be amazing. I would love that.
Well, selfishly, then you've got more feedback, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah.
drive across country and be like, shit, I've got to go
Right.
find such and such of a coach. You're like, no. I just walk into my gym and be like, yo,
Yeah.
rip me to pieces. You know, what am I shit
Well,
at?
even with your kids, you know, like if you have kids like I do, I want them to be, I have two boys and then we have a girl on the way. Like, I want my boys to be better than I am.
Yeah.
Now that requires a lot of work on me because I know the things that I need to work on and to be a better human, but I also have to end some, if I want them to be better, I have to do the hard work by changing the family tree. Maybe don't want them to think this way. I need to show them different.
Yeah.
You know, they say it's like a ladder, right? Where, you know, like strong men create good times. Good times create
Soft
like
men
complaints. Yeah, soft men. And it's like, and then soft men
create hard times.
create hard times. You know, so there's so many avenues that you can really choose when it comes to being receptive to feedback and coaching. And like, I think a lot of coaches don't. I think a lot of owners don't want. They want to be the number one shit in charge, which is great. But then you're not really developing leadership or a team. You're just kind of, you know, if you get sick, the whole gym might go down. You know, I was in California for a week with for CrossFit, and I didn't even know what was going on at the gym. I typically just go to the 6 a.m. class as a participant, and then I coach. You know, I'm going to coach a class tonight, and we'll coach a class on Wednesday. Can't wait to coach it. I love it. You know, but that's about it. Because I have good coaches, I have people who care, and I have a system in play. So
Yeah, you're speaking my language about owners and, you know, yeah, box owners just wanting to stay where they're at because they're the man or they're the woman
yeah,
and they're the fucking hot shit. You're like,
yep,
oh my God, are we really like fighting over pennies when there's pounds out there to be made? You know, it's like, look around. There's so many more people you can help. And guess what?
yeah,
If you help one more person, that means you make more fucking money. If that is the only thing you care about, that is what creates it. You know, we're in a
yep,
service-based industry, right? This is not a bloody product. It's a service.
right,
You know, if you do a good service, people usually give you cash and keep giving you cash because they're like, I want to keep going. There you go. Like it is really that simple, right? And I think for some folk putting that, well, for everybody putting the ego aside is difficult, you know, because ego
yep,
comes up in many different forms for different people. But if you're that owner, man, or that head coach, or even just coach, you got that 5-letter word beginning with C and it's on your back, right? Like you need to be humble as pie, like
yep,
humble as pie. Like outside of the gym, you have to put yourself first because inside of the gym, you are now last.
yeah,
All these folk ahead of you are ahead of you.
yep.
Mm.
I agree, man.
I got 3
I
questions.
agree. Go ahead.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Man. I mean, it's hard. That's a hard one, right? I like leaders eat last. They do, you know. Um, and but it's hard. That's a hard one. There's going to be things in people's lives where that's easy to do. There's going to be times where it's hard to do, you know. Like I know changing when you bring kids into a family, you're beyond last, and it hits you like a sack of bricks. You don't realize, like, hey, I want to hang out, or I want to do something. And then guess what? Not only are you eating last, you might not get to eat for years.
Mm.
You know, I mean, yeah, and there's so like leaders eat last is great. I need to keep revisiting that. So that's my favorite.
Yeah, I think about things like that all the time. I think that's one of the subconsciously, I think that's one of the reasons why I keep my circle kind of small, that real tight
Yep.
knit people, because
Yep.
you can make sure everybody's looked after. And sure as shit, they're going to do the same thing for you, right?
Yep.
And then we're all good. I think when we spread ourselves too thin is when we get a bit too overwhelmed in these social situations. And we're like, oh, well, I'm looking after everybody else. It's like, yes, but they don't give a shit about you. And you don't really give a shit about them either. You're just doing it to say it. It's like, keep your circle small, care about those folk, eat last, because they're now eating last for you.
Right.
And we're now all rowing the boat together.
Yep. I love it.
Hmm. What's the worst piece of life advice you've ever received?
I think of a lot of analogies that come to my first frame. I'm trying to think of actual advice. Um, I would say when it comes to being a guy, it's burying the emotions kind of makes you tough.
Yeah.
Um, it's and that really came with me. I was a college athlete. I could bury things deep. I could get over things quick, and you can do that for a period of time.
Yeah.
It can't be your entire life. I mean, you cannot just keep burying things because it will come up in one way or another. So like, I know that's not like a piece of advice, but it's kind of like unsaid for a lot of dudes. Um, and I think of so many men who, I don't know how big the Power Rangers were, kind of where you grew up, but
Yeah, huge,
very,
man.
very big to me, man. And I know Tommy, the Green Ranger, he just recently committed suicide, and that it hit me so hard because he, from what it sounded like, you never really know a person, you do their character, but like that was the man. That was
Yeah.
that was our guy, and he had a bad fight with his wife. He had probably been going through some stuff for months,
Mm.
and it's not like they were having a disagreement, a typical thing, and he's just gone now. And you think, man, how many people told him, suck it up for your career, man, like people love you, like you're good, dude, whereas he wasn't. Or Robin Williams, you
Mm.
know one of the funniest people of all time, one of the greatest comedians of all time. um all these things, like how many people, how many guys told a person like that one time to just suck it up, and now they're not here. And so that's where I think when it comes, I only speak because I see it happen too much with guys, but I get it. I get how easy it is to do, right? Because it kind of goes back to the first one. So that's the worst.
Hey, that's why this thing started, this
Yeah.
podcast thing. I nickname him the last one, maybe because it's a bit of a northern humor, but over the years you hear a lot of uh, really hard stories being in and around CrossFit gyms, because you put your heart on your sleeve and you don't only speak from it, but you bleed from it every class,
Yeah.
right? And you hear a lot of stories, man. And essentially, yeah, he had his noose in his head in a noose in his garage, and he decides to step off. And this is after one class I ever met him. He didn't come back for 4 weeks. He decides to step off, and he comes back and he explains to me. I was like, "Oh, can I speak to you after class?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem. It's good to see you again." Like I thought I kicked the shit out of you, and I'm not going to see you again. It's like, no, 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 and just opened up like a can of worms, man. And I was like, oh shit. Like after one class, like
Yeah.
after a one time of everybody in this room seeing each other, 6 a.m. class, a morning class, like fuck, man, like we can't keep doing this. And then yeah, that's why we're doing this thing right now, man. Like it's real rough.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But I mean, you get to, you get to think when you're 80, 90 years old, whatever it is, you get to look back and say that you did that, and not say to tell anyone to brag, but like you get to live that. And that's amazing.
Oh, thank you, brother. We all do our bit, We all do our bit.
Mm.
What are the 3 words you would tell your younger self?
Um, well, that's hard because that would all have to do with money. I mean, I don't buy dumb shit.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it would probably have a lot to do with learning from failure, right? Like, I did not learn from failure well. I hated it. Thought I was immortal, right? Like, just no such thing as bad times because I put in the work, the pain, and being okay with just like when things are okay, be okay when things aren't okay. Like that's where I just struggle as an adult. I just fucking suck at it, man. If something's not going right in my business, I'm pissed. If I look at my bank account and I don't like something, I'm like I need to fix it now. Marriage, like, nope, we got an issue. Boom, it's got to happen. I got to talk about it now.
Yeah.
Not even in 5 minutes now. That doesn't work. Those things don't work. Everything that I just mentioned, like it takes time. So like being okay with not being okay in a moment, it is something I really wish I could have explained it to my old self.
Mm. I'm gonna take a lot from that.
Yeah, I kind of just thought about it. So I mean, I'm taking a lot from it too. I mean, if you think about it, right, man, I mean, we struggle as a society with the uncomfortableness of it. I mean, I hate it. When there's
Yeah.
awkwardness, I hate it. I hate giving people space, but other people are different, right? Some people recharge when they get some space. Hey, I need some space. I need some time. And even as I say it, it still doesn't make sense. But also, um, that is like they call it like a toxic positivity. Um, or sorry, not positivity. It's I hate the word toxic too, but like what is it? Toxic perfectionism, right? I I realized that I lived that life for a long time. Nope, not perfect. Got to fix it now. Nope,